Good day, you're watching Leadership TV and the program is Inside Nigeria, where we analyze major frontline headlines on our national dailies. I am Cynthia Omado. Welcome to the show. And of course, we'll begin with Leadership newspaper this morning. The major headline here talking about despite strikes, falling standards. 67 varsities produce 6,464 first-class graduates in 3 years. Experts attribute trend to the technology. Others. Stakeholders seek adequate funding of vocational skills. Northwest APC voids Ganduje, Jaji, others suspension. 28 million housing deficit. Stringent policies impeding home ownership. And above the masthead here, 2024 Hajj, Nakon airlifts 7,582 pilgrims in 5 days. And on a sad note, Iran president feared dead in chopper crash. Still on leadership, army falls coup attempt in DR Congo. Bandits kill 6 farmers in Kaduna village. Resettled Borno residents. We are dying of hunger. And on sports, Man City win historic 4th straight English Premier League title. And let's move on now to the page 2 of leadership. We have our stand, which is our editorial here. It talks about a landmark achievement for Nigeria's blue economy. You may want to check that out to know what that is all about. And of course, on our back page, we have the Monday column with Dakuku Peterside talking about the scourge of rising inflation. You can read that up to know what that is all about. Down below, our Ghana Must Go says Nigeria has collapsed under Tinubu Babacha Lawal. No more grasses to cut. We also get more details on all of these news stories. You can pick up a copy of Leadership newspaper. And of course, we're moving on now to national economy. The major headline here says Nigeria's economy under Tinubu 1 year after. How federal government's economic policies have impacted Nigerians. UN approves Nigeria's maritime expansion at vast new territory. Diaspora remittances fall 6.28% to $282.61 million in Q1 2024. And finally, on the national economy, what the tech is going on at the passport office. You can pick up a copy of National Economy to know more details on all of those news stories. Moving on now to Vanguard newspaper. The major headline here says manufacturers wail as unsold goods pile up in warehouses. As cost of living rises, purchasing power drops. Palm oil producers worse hit. Beer producers emerge best performers. Experts blame FX volatility, energy crisis, prefer solutions. And still on Vanguard, intense search for Iran's President Raisi after helicopter accident. Edo Guba, Labour moves to reconcile Akpata Imaswagbon, accuses Abure of not backing party's candidates, set up committee to probe fraud allegations against him. Minimum wage, why we may not accept 100,000 naira, organized labor. And still on Vanguard, Tinubu okays establishment of green industrial zone. Federal government moves to fight inflation through CNG. And on the sports, Man City win Premier League for record fourth time in a row. That's all on Vanguard newspaper. Let's move on now to the Punch. The Punch major headline here says Dangote petrol supply, FG may slash 6 trillion naira fuel import. 520 billion naira monthly fuel import expected to drop as Dangote begins supply in June. Alright, above here we have 386 abductees rescued during Zambisa clearance exercise, says military. Oil production nears 1.7 million barrels per day, says NNPC. And MPC may rise or rather raise interest rate again Tuesday. CBN, SEC Fine 9 banks 678 million naira. And on the punch here, helicopter crash, Iranians pray for missing president, minister. Senate holds public hearing on judges' salary today. Cocaine seizure, NDLEA declares couple wanted. And finally, on the punch front page, federal government begins housing construction in 4 states. Moving away from the punch newspaper, let's check out the Nation. The major headline on the Nation says Tinubu likely to get minister's performance record this week. Deliverables based on administration's 8 priority areas are criteria. And the troops rescue abducted 383 from Zambisa forest. Okay, the Nation still says President OK's panel on green economic drive. Abjuri Ngelale is envoy. Our central bank withdraws cybersecurity levy circular. Military police take over Abuja Plaza. 6 women die in Taraba accident. All right, still a Nation, hundreds flee Niger community. And finally, CBN faces top choices on interest rate, inflation, others. Apex Bank's MPC meets. That's all on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Let's move on now to The Guardian. The major headline here says MPC meeting decision. Further hike anticipated as inflation interest rates coverage above 30%. Minimum wage. NLC rejects 100,000 naira as FG Labour shift grounds. Dozens flee Niger community over communal crisis, seek government intervention. Iran Supreme leader urges prayer for president after choppers had landed. Government projects cause 47.5% fiber cuts. Telcos seek action. Still on The Guardian, bandits invade Abuja community, kidnap 4, injure others. 2027, Obi supporters begin mobilization, set up harmonization committee. Eleme One axis and east-west road to sorrow, tears and deaths. And finally, on The Guardian, attaining food security through sustainable irrigation agriculture. That's all from The Guardian newspaper. Let's move on now to Daily Sun. The major headline here on Daily Sun says NLC TUC insists on living wage, says no going back on demands. Reps Speaker to Ganduje set up machinery to reconcile aggrieved APC members. Stakeholders meet in Kaduna, strategize for 2027 polls. Tinubu chairs 25-man presidential committee on climate action, grain economy. Appoints Ngelale special envoy on climate action. 2027, Obi supporters begin mobilization, set up committees. Rescue Katsina from hunger, insecurity, Governor Bed's World Food Program. Nigeria-Germany trade relations hit 3 billion euros. Over 4,000 Nigerians schooling in Germany. NDLEA declares couple wanted. Arrests 4 cartel members over cocaine seizure. Helicopter crash. Apprehension over fate of Iran's president. Reps propose election petition conclusion before president governors swearing in. And finally, on Daily Sun, Serap sues governors FCT over failure to account for FAAC allocations. That's all we can take from the Daily Sun newspaper. Finally, now let's move on to this day. Major headline here says legal framework will prevent governors from abusing state police, says Senate leader. Insists is best for effective security, functional economy. Nigeria has police-citizen ratio of 1 to 650, far cry from United Nations minimum ratio of 1 to 460. Still on this day, Iranian president, foreign ministers, others missing after helicopters had landing in mountainous terrain. State media says site located, silent on state of leader, others. Still on this day, DRC Army says it stopped attempted coup involving US citizens. Still on this day, Peter Mba, we are increasing Enugu's IGR from 25 billion naira to 287 million naira. And still on this day, Komolafe, with growing investment in renewables, EVS Nigeria must aggressively exploit its fossil fuels. And finally, on this day newspaper, Mele Kyari blames oil output decline on underinvestment, theft, pipeline constraints, says NNPC rolling out rig share program set to drill 53 additional wells. Well, that's all we'll take today on Inside Nigeria Front Pages. We'll be back, of course, with our guest for more insight on some of these news stories. Please stay with us. Watching Leadership TV, and this is Inside Nigeria. I am Cynthia Onwada. I have my guest here with me. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin now with, of course, Leadership newspaper here, where you talked about despite the strikes and all other fallen standards, 67 universities have been able to produce 6,464 first-class graduates in 3 years, and some experts are attributing that to the trend in technology and all of that. Can we say it's a welcome development despite the bad news we got a few weeks ago from Jam?
Right. For me, I don't think it. I didn't celebrate that much because this must have to translate to our economy and job provision, because the world is changing and what we are studying in Nigeria is becoming archaic. For instance, if you go to some country now, even Ghana here, you don't study physics, because if you study physics, assume you are going to be a teacher. But if you study physics electronics, that means you are going to be able to do something. So for me, I also study economics in my first degree. It's very rare in advanced places that I study economics. Is either I study economic, computer economics or economics computer, because the world is changing. So you must. So the problem now is that as a university graduate, you are expected to graduate and now be a employer of labor employ other people from technical, maybe polytechnic, to actually work with you. Can you say that these 6,000 people can actually employ others? So it
Okay.
must translate. But
Yeah.
in terms of academic pursuit, it's good to also pursue a good grade. Nigerians are always excelling. If you even go abroad, you see that every Nigerian that actually travel out always come out
Doing a
because the
lot
rigor
better.
of learning in Nigeria is quite a difficult one.
But can we say they are just dashing out the first class
Y-
scores
yes,
here and there? Because the
the,
jam thing still scares me, because these children that sat for jam would still go into the university.
right.
You
Well,
know, their
I
output
would
will
like
be
a
same.
breakdown in which I would like to do more further research on this 6,460. But you know why? I've watched a TV station whereby a private university is graduating students and is graduating like 100 first class. You know, like 30 from a
Okay.
particular department. So now for me, I went to Federal University and I've been to 5 federal and state university. Now it's pretty difficult to even have, you know, 2 person even in a
So
faculty.
basically,
So
we have to know these schools now
yes,
that
are they
dishing out the
private
first class
university
certificate.
or
Right.
public university? Because for private university it is easy to get first class,
Okay.
but for public, I only know the one you are. You know what I'm saying? But in public
I
university,
attended a federal university.
so
I
how
know
many
difficult
how
it
many
was.
yes,
Yes.
these are the things. So if you look at it,
Yeah.
like in my set, maybe for good 10 years you hardly see some first class coming out.
During
So
my
when you
time
know,
too, there was no first class.
these are the
Right.
things that we need to. So I like to look further. Is it private university or public university?
And then the experts attributing it to, you know, technology. I know we have to advance with time. As time is, you know, passing, you have to teach according to what is obtainable. I know you mentioned Ghana and not being able to read physics in Ghana because of how you end up. So with the way we see Nigeria right now, what with the curriculum, what are those things that
I think I think they actually on it. It has to be reviewed holistically. You know why? You know, some of us study sociology, political science, you know, anthropology.
So
you cannot apply those things. So where do you want to work at this age? So those curriculum must be reviewed to reflect. By the time you graduate, what do you do? Now, most people up to now still study business admin. So when you study business admin, you are not studying business admin for computer, business admin in agriculture. You know, there has to be specific. So by the time you are graduating, you're actually graduating as a professional who can graduate and continue to work in a part. But when you study business admin, it's an open-ended course that does not tie you to anything. Then another thing is, when we talk about technology, in as much as is a positive thing to come, but it's not all that is glitter that is gold. We can also see technology has made us be more lazy to an extent. You know, before when you are doing research, you know, there's a level at which we go do research. But for now, it's just at your beck and call. You open perhaps your assignment. You don't need to gather books. You go online, and so sometimes it brings the lazy part of us. But I can say positively, it is a good impact. Technology has actually brought about a lot of
it's also taking a lot of the jobs where, you know, that normally people will sit down and carry files from one office to the another, but there are computers now. You can send those files. You really don't have to do that much physical work. So imagine, for example, this business admin now, you know, clerks, secretaries, and we have thousands of people graduating with this particular course. How many people do you want to carry file all around when there are computers doing that?
And that is
work?
why
So
every graduate,
the present times we are right now in Nigeria, you know, when it comes to what is obtainable now, where can you fit in as a graduate? Is it digital marketing now? Is it cyber security? Do you learn how to work from home, since there's an expansion in remote working now, people working at home with their computers, not going to school office? So just advancing with
you see, technology fits into every sectors of life. So it depends on how you want to apply it. If you're in agriculture, there's technology for agriculture. If you're in transport system, you can see what Uber has came to actually change. So if you're in space, there's technology for space. If you're in oil and gas, there's technology. So what we are saying is that every course needs to actually marry tech with what they're actually doing. It makes you to create a job. I can tell you, in as much as we think tech is taking away job, it's also creating job in one hand. But are we there? That is the question.
Okay, are we there? That is the very are we up to the task?
Right.
Okay, still on leadership, let's take a look at the sad one here. The Iran president appeared dead in chopper crash. Well, a few hours ago, actually, Al Jazeera confirmed him dead, and the chopper was completely burnt, and also he was with his foreign minister and some other, occupants in that chopper. It's such a sad one. May their souls rest in perfect peace. But then it's going to, you know, make a lot of things change. What does this actually mean for Iran as a country? And we can't talk about this without talking about what is going on right now in Palestine. Where do Iran stand in all of this? And what do you see happening? A lot is going to happen from today.
Right. Well, my heart goes to the people of Iran because it's a sad one for them. And global community also have to look at it with a sense of concern because it's a number one citizen of that country that died, and you recall that there was an airstrike by Israel to Iran embassy in Syria, and that's metamorphosed to Iran trying to fight back at Israel, in which the missile was catch, and now uh, Israel. I mean, we wouldn't say it's Israel or not Israel now because we
No,
must find. Yes, for
there's
now
hasn't been
we don't
anything
have
established.
issue on that. But the thing is this: to have helicopter clash. I mean, crash. It's something what they have been using. A lot of. So I think there should be a special, report on it to find out what happened. What by and large, the world is getting much more tensed. You look at it very well because we have Russia, Ukraine. Don't forget we have Sudan also born in Africa. It doesn't
Congo
take.
also,
Congo is always having
yeah.
its issue. We still have Israel and Palestine. So I think the world is getting much more tense, which there is need for UN to come up and really bring out some rules. But Iran also, right from time, they are also having global issue. I think they are on sanction from UN already. So it's a big issue. So I hope they resolve. But I'm sure the vice president will take over. Maybe after 50 days now, they will have to conduct another election.
Yeah, this Raisi as is the Iran president is actually quite a controversial
Leader.
character because I know there are a few Iranians who have tried to speak against his government. He is trying to install an Islamic republic there in Iran, and also the issue with the hijab women covering and the uprising and the rebel about that after a female was killed as a result of not covering up well. So, but you have some Iranians crying and praying for their president while it wasn't confirmed yet, and we have a section to kind of on the other side, and they couldn't care less. But when a leader, of a great nation passes away like this, what kind of lessons can we actually learn
Right.
from that?
To talk about Ibrahim Raisi as a president, I think where every country have their culture and they want to uphold those culture. So that is easy that someone should put hijab, someone will put hijab. I'm sure it's through their constitution they are trying to fight that. But Raisi, he has contested before. Maybe in 2017 did not win, and 2021 actually he became president. Now being controversial simply means he does not have, he has, the major issue is that the chemical weapon, because it was perceived that they're actually developing chemical weapon, in which some United Nations say no. There's a treaty that it should not develop such things since you are not a world power, and he insisted on doing that. So for the country, there's no way a president will be liked by 100%. So that some people are celebrating, some people are jubilating, it's still a loss to that country. And I think it is not the first time the president of Iran will die. So it's not something new to the people. It's a bad.
All
bad
eyes will
one.
be on Iran for the next few days, and we know new installments will be announced
By supreme leader.
by the supreme leader. So let's just pray for Iran, and we'll keep our eyes on them, and any updates from there will definitely let you know. So still back to Nigeria right now, the NLC and TUC still in a tussle with the federal government. They're saying there's no going back on the wage demands. There have been some mentions of 100,000 naira coming in and out, and the organized labor shutting that down and saying they are not settling for 100,000 naira. You know, last week it was 48 thousand naira. That was last week. It was 48,000 naira the government was preferring, and now we are hearing rumors of 100,000 naira. But the NLC have come out to, shut that down. We have that here on the Guardian newspaper where we say the NLC rejects 100,000 naira as federal government and labor shifts round. So
Right.
this tussle back and forth.
Right.
Where is it actually going
Where
to?
the gladiators understand the business of negotiation, and and then NLC TUC bring about 615, which me and you know that it is unrealistic. Also, government pushing and coming with 48,000, which also unrealistic. So, but as an economist, if you ask me, I think we should do within the range of 150,000 to 200,000, simply because of the current economic status of Nigeria. Because if you look at the purchasing power, it has actually down so much. If you look at most of our money, in fact, 70% of our income are going into food. So if transportation, housing, rent, logistics and student school fees. So if you look at it very well, if you are looking at even the 100,000 that is being rumored, it's still not enough. So I think 150 is good, but they also should have a caution, that is NLC. You don't ask for such amount that we call it too outrageous. So I think they should also come. But for government also, beyond the salary we are earning, a lot of things need to be fight for by this NLC.
A lot of requests.
A lot of requests, because when you look at the well-being in Nigeria, it's issue of rent, transport, food costs.
Healthcare.
So why not say federal government, you declare state of emergency on food security? What is the result? Federal government, you said we are going to have refinery working by December 2023. By 2024, make sure it works. If all these things works perfectly, CNG working, you wouldn't expend more on transport, more on food, more on student school fees. Everything would have come. So that's your 100,000. That's your 150. We have a purchasing power that can be okay for you for at least a month. So I think they should go beyond salary, because you may collect 1 million naira. If there's a serious inflation, it will amount to 100,000 naira in your hand.
Okay. Even the 100,000 naira, we don't know how far it would take an individual to take care of themselves per month. But let's get to see the update from NLC and TUC, how far this will go. Well, there's some exciting news here from the Nation newspaper. It says Tinubu likely to get minister's performance record this week. Deliverables are based on the administration's 8 priority areas, which are criteria. Well, next week, President Tinubu's administration will be clocking 1 year old, but the ministers will be clocking 9 months.
Right.
We know that the Minister of Labor, the former Minister of Labor, Simon Lalong, resigned, to take up a seat at the Senate, and we've also had issues with the Minister of Nigerian Affairs, that Beta Edu. But then, what does this say? Performance record.
I think it's a good one. We in private sector always have the what we call key performance indicator, KPI, and even SLA, service level agreement, which you're expected to actually perform at a particular level. So I think it's a good one. You know why? It makes them to perform, because you recall President Buhari had ministers for 8 years, and most of them start with him and end with them, and no performance metrics, nothing. So I think with this one, it's a good one. Perhaps even we as Nigerian citizens, we are even scoring those ministers already, because some of us are scoring Wiki, some of us are scoring Umahi, some of us are scoring Minister of Agriculture, while some of us are saying no to some minister like Minister of Power, and
that's one minister that
a lot of them. But it's a hot seat, because even after he's performing, I think the problem of that minister was that his utterances are not good most times, because he'll be saying, you have to pay, those kind of
we even talk about switching off your fridge and your AC before you leave.
It is not his business to tell us that. So that's why. But that ministry is actually having issue, because I was part of the NERC, which is Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. One of their, they called stakeholder, and I was invited. We actually see that there's a lot of trouble in that area, and that trouble simply means that we have discos owned by private. We now have transmission, which is owned by the federal government. So what is federal government? And grade is falling every day. Whose responsibility? And this thing even is preceded this administration. So I think in terms of scoring them, but I also have issue with three new ministry that we have. You know, how do we are we going to score those three ministry? We have Ministry of Blue Economy. Right, it's a new ministry.
Yes,
so they are coming from zero level, right? Are you going to be measuring them with Minister of Aviation? You know, that's another thing. So we also have Minister of Steel Development. That's a new one. So we are also looking at groundbreaking from their part. We also have Minister of Tourism also. These are new ministries. So we want to really see how they will score these people against people that have a structured way of money. However, I think it's a good one.
But it's 9 months too early to start scoring this minister, because some of these ministers have been so quiet of late. I know we do hear a lot from Minister of Power Adevaya Adelabo and his utterances when it comes to light and switching off your AC and your all of that. We do hear from a minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, yes. But there are some ministers that are quite just, even with the controversy with Better Edu and the money and all that, there are some ministers that are just cricket, silent.
I can
Is
tell you.
Is it too early to start expecting something from them?
I can tell you, I read through leadership today, and I saw your, what do you call this special page that you used to have, that is your own stand. And I discovered that that satellite was on Blue Economy. And I was saying this is the first time, thanks to leadership, that I will see that they're actually doing something meaningful. And that's why you see people like Minister of Women Affairs. That's why she's taking the fights against that speaker about 100 girls
to be married off.
That's what actually brought her to limelight, that she's actually working, you know. And
people need to know that you are active.
Yes, no matter what. And that's why they need to even work with media, because you can be working if you are not projected. So that's why it's very, very. Look at the Minister of Aviation.
But apart from working with the media, I feel like if you are working, you work with people.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. Sometimes when you work and nobody captures your work, it's a problem. So, like Minister of Aviation, because of what happens to Airpeace, it brings him out to actually speak on his position on it.
But then again, that was all Alan Onima's performance. It had nothing to do with the federal government.
It has something to do with federal, because federal government actually negotiated where they landed. And give them that permission and encourages them. You see, when a private sector is doing well, it's a function of what federal government, their direction, their direction. Because if federal government does not give you nod to actually, they have approved another one, you know, you cannot. They have to certify you. It's possible. It's a paperwork that you tell them that you want to fly London. And for 2 years, they put it under the table.
But then I think a lot of eyes are also on Festus Keyamo, being that he was with President Tinubu for the past 8 years. People want to know what he wants to do differently. What did you do when you were with President Tinubu? You were just...
Well, with Buhari, you want to say?
President Buhari.
He was with Buhari for 8 years.
Exactly.
And now
people just want to see what he wants
you know, without speaking for him, you know, Festus Keyamo was under Ngigi. And Ngige was under Labour. And Festus Keyamo was the Minister of State. Without him brief for him, when you are a Minister of State, it's like you are, you know, exactly.
He complained about
that. But now that he's a Minister of Aviation, for me, I think he's in the wrong ministry too, if you ask me.
Really?
Because he's a lawyer. So I was thinking he would have, you know, Attorney General or, you know, something. But he actually justified where he is. He said where he is now is much more of signing an agreement. But for me, I think he's doing well, because he's actually navigating. And he's doing well.
Let us watch and see. Another minister is also Dave Umahi, that has been generating a lot of controversy with all the demolitions and the Lagos Calabar coastal highway and all of that. But let us get to see
for Umahi, I think it's a round peg in the round hole this time around. The only thing is that the issue of high tech or Chagori, I think that's a major. But in terms of performing and following, you have to see Lagos and Third Mainland Bridge is actually the only thing that I have issue with them, because where I live, they actually approve a particular road for 377 million as that supplementary budget of 2023. But up till now, I'm sure they have not mobilized the contractor, and the contractor has worked like 30 percent. So that's another. So David, you might should look at such area. You know, when you have given out contract, mobilize these people, because it was, if they have paid this person, it would have solved the problem during the dry season. Now it is raining season, and this person is still pursuing the payment. I think you should also look at that very
Well,
well.
maybe these ministers need to also put their foot out there so people would actually know that they are working. But the major thing is results. Results are the major
And that's why
thing.
the
Seeing the
KPI is
results,
a
people
good one.
feeling the results.
That's why the KPI is good. So we can actually say score this one. That simply means that some minister may go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and I also wonder why the Minister of Labour and also Minister of Humanitarian,
Yeah.
Tinubu has not appointed any
Replacements.
replacement, and it's more than three months, I think. So that's not still a good
That's
one.
not a good one.
That's not
Yeah.
a good one. Don't let him go the route of President Buhari, who takes 6 months before he even appointed a minister. So I think there should be there's a lacuna also. There's need for National Assembly to also work on constitutional matter, which will say that once a minister goes, don't take more than 2 months to replace, because if not for the Buhari that said that delay for 6 months, there wouldn't be law that said within 60 days you must have minister. I think the National Assembly should also look at that.
Okay, finally here, this news here from the Daily Sun says rescue Katsina from hunger, insecurity, governor begs World Food Program. And I'm just confused about this. Why is the governor begging the World Food Program to rescue Katsina from hunger and
Right. You see,
it's not a good look at all. It's not.
Well, according to you, it's not a good look, but they are actually ravaging in poverty and there's insurgency. I can tell you this:
serious one.
Yobe State. I went to Yobe for a research, and I discovered that WFP is feeding 150,000 citizens every month.
But this needs this mainly applies to, I don't have any data to back this up, but it seems it mainly applies to the north, where you get to see these humanitarian agencies assisting even with all of the locations, all the security apparatus the government puts forth to that area. Where are we going wrong?
Well, I think it's not only the north. Depends on the problems at hand. So when there's flood, when there's problem, there's a need for humanitarian to come to it. But if you look at the case of North, the insurgency, the kidnapping, it's quite deepening more.
Yes,
I think
people
so.
can't even go
that
to
is the
farms
problem. So
and get their own
exactly.
food.
And if you look at the North generally too, they are mostly much more government workers and farmers. So these are the things. And in such poverty ravaging, no, in such insurgency ravaging area, there's bound to be more poverty because people cannot do what they're supposed to do. But I think there is trouble of insecurity in Nigeria, which Nigeria must tame. So if you don't tame it, it will even go beyond the north. Because all of us now is having issue with issue of, I call it farming, issue of food shortage.
Yeah.
So if we don't tame such trouble, it will take over the whole Nigeria.
But what does this mean for the government right now? Who is presently at the helm of affairs, President Tinubu? The governor not even asking the federal government for assistance, but actually the World Food Program going international, like rescue us. So we are here, we are hungry, we are not safe. What does this show?
Yes, it simply means,
after all of the allocations,
well, it simply
for
means
weapons,
governor,
for food and all of that.
Right. If you look at the newspaper part today, it was on your paper too. 380 something people rescued from. So that simply shows that, and they have been there for 10 years, according to the report I read. That simply shows that there's a serious trouble in that area. And if you go to that Maiduguri now, you see the presence of international organizations. There's some conspiracy theory too that say they don't want the thing to settle because they also have the way of benefiting from this international organization. But however, if there is security, there will be problems. So federal governments must find their way to make sure they put up security, adequate security. Because if you don't give us security, there won't be good farming produce
and that results into hunger.
And that results into hunger, and hunger results into poverty. Yes. And that's a serious issue.
All right, these are something that the Nigerian government has to look into, because I don't know why we'll be as rich as we are in Nigeria, and a governor has to ask the World Food Program for assistance. It's not like we are in a war zone. We are not at war in Nigeria. So I think these are the things the government needs to really look into. But this is where we draw the curtain on Inside Nigeria today. Thank you so much, our guest Elias Aliyu, for joining and analyzing this brilliantly with me. I still remain Cynthia Onado. This is Leadership TV. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.